Professional athletes, musicians, actors, authors, and 15-year-olds are all scared of the same thing: the terrible, dreaded, hopefully temporary sophomore slump. Known in the UK as the second year blues, sophomore slump is a term we use to describe the abstract phenomenon of what a person experiences when they're facing round two. You made that album, you had your first sports season, you wrote that book, you made that movie, you finished your freshman year of high school. So you're facing one daunting question: what now? For the last 3 years, I have taught high school English. And for each of those 3 years, I have specifically taught sophomores. So I've had the opportunity to observe the trials and tribulations of the sophomore slump much more closely than I ever imagined. My goal as their teacher is to help them understand what's happening to them, so that hopefully they can gain something from that experience. The process does take all year long, and I start by telling them that they, out of all of the grades in high school, are the most disempowered. Let's look at the evidence. In terms of social power and influence, no surprise, seniors are at the top. They've been there the longest. They only have 1 year left to go. They're the oldest. Everyone is looking towards them. They are responsible for setting the tone of a school year. If you have a sour senior class, those pep rallies are not going to be any fun. Next, you have the juniors. They're upperclassmen. They're a lot more steady in where they're going. They know their place. They don't have to question it at all. But here's the upset. You would think that sophomores would be next, but it's actually freshmen, because every other class is supposed to watch out for them. It is our responsibility to help them assimilate into the culture of a school. Every other grade is looking at them. Then at the bottom, you have sophomores, and no one's really looking at them. They're just kind of there. They are learning to drive. They're gaining their first sense of autonomy. They have new friends and all of these things, and there's social pressures that come along with being a sophomore. And because no one is looking at you, suddenly those boxes that you once fit into so cleanly don't fit you so well anymore. I cannot count the number of times I have counseled a sophomore in my room through some sort of friendship breakup or friend group drama. It's just inevitable. Sophomore year is so much about the journey of discovering and finding people, new people, who align with your changing values and your shifting sense of self, which can make it kind of lonely. Lonelier than you maybe would think, maybe just as lonely as you remember. Institutionally, juniors are at the top. Junior year is widely regarded as the most important in preparation for college. It's your last chance to make an impression. You're taking your ACTs. It's the most difficult academically. There's so much structure in place for guiding juniors through the entirety of that year. Additionally, if a school is considering making any kind of major structural changes, they're going to ask the juniors what they think first. They've been there long enough to know what that change is going to cost, and they're still going to be affected by that change throughout their senior year. So they have seniority and continued effect. Next, you have, splitting in the middle of the pyramid, seniors and freshmen. Seniors, so much of the year is structured around preparing them for and celebrating their eventual exit. Prom, graduation, awards days, they're applying to college, accepting to college, they're figuring out their next steps, and they're being sent off. On the other hand, you have freshmen, and so much of the beginning of the year is designed to acclimate them to being a high school student for the next four years. You have orientation, you have club fests, you have peer mentorship programs, etc., all designed to help them acclimate to where they're going to be. Additionally, as a freshman, you have grace. When you make a mistake, people expect you to make that mistake, and they're understanding and correcting you and helping you learn from it. Then at the bottom, you have sophomores. Again, and once again, no one's really looking at you. You're not a freshman, so all the structures that were put in place to help you are gone. You're not an upperclassman. No one's really shoving you out the door quite yet. So sophomore year is a lot about maintenance. You're continuing, you're taking your classes, you're going about your business, which can feel monotonous and boring and tank your sense of motivation. So through this framework, we can understand the sophomore slump as a combination of social loneliness and institutional invisibility. You're moving forward, and not that many people are looking at you. To change gears a little bit, in English class, we read books. And as we read books to gain empathy. We gain empathy by being exposed to circumstances that we've never experienced before and learning other people's motivations. In order to help a 15-year-old boy understand why a grown woman made certain choices in a book, you have to give them a framework. The framework I came up with is categorizing knowledge into 3 groups. Category 1 are the things that you know that you know. You know that 2 plus 2 equals 4, and you know how gravity works. You throw an apple up, it's going to come back down. Pretty straightforward. Category 2 are the things that you know that you don't know. If you've never flown on an airplane before, you know that you don't know what it feels like to fly on an airplane. The example I use with my students, you all know that you don't know what it feels like to walk into a bar and legally order a drink. And this is when it starts to click, and they're like, yeah, we don't know that. One day, and I'm like, exactly, one day, you can know what that feels like. But right now, you know that you don't know. The third category is really hard for them to understand because I can't give them an example. And it's the category of things that you don't know that you don't know. And I can't give them an example because if I don't know that I don't know it, but I tell them, then suddenly I know that I don't know it, and it doesn't work anymore. So I try and explain it to them this way, where I tell them, I know what it's like to be 15. None of you know what it's like to be 27. So imagine you're looking at me, and I know what the next 10 years could potentially hold, and you have no idea. And they're looking at me, and they're like, right, okay, we have no idea. Now what? I'd like to take this framework and apply it to the timeline of sophomore year itself. At the beginning of sophomore year, they surely do think they know it all. This is their perception of their knowledge base. They think that the entire pie is what they know that they know. They've done freshman year once. They know where their classes are, they know where the bathrooms are, they know who's where, they know who's in what grades and what they're supposed to do. They really do think that they have it down. In actuality, it looks more like this. The things that they know is a very small sliver of that pie, and the majority of what their knowledge base is what they don't know that they don't know. And the truth is, this is almost what it looks like for all of us, all the time. We can't tell the future, so most of our knowledge base is always going to be the things that we don't know that we don't know. But sophomores don't know that. Hence where we get the word sophomoric from. Sophomoric is an adjective that we use to describe someone who is at once so confident and full of knowledge and yet ultimately immature and juvenile. This is never more on display than in that first week when, as I mentioned before, I tell them up front, you are the most disempowered group in this school. And it's August, and they're looking at me and they're like, yeah, right, okay, Ms. Wheeler, we have no power, sure. And then I'm like, okay, come back in November and we'll talk. So that first semester is tough to watch. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. Sophomoric and the word sophomore derive from 2 Greek words, sophos meaning wise and moros meaning foolish. It's in the name. The condition of being a sophomore is to be a wise fool. Wise in the sense that you've done it once before, but foolish in that you have no idea what's coming next. And most of the journey is what's coming next. You've only done a small part of it. Ideally, they would know this, but they don't. So again, that first semester comes with a lot of disillusionment. By the time we get to midterms, they are grumpy, they are lonely, some of them are sad, they're tired, and then the most magical thing happens. Winter break. This is the best time of the year. They get to go home, they get to relax, see their family. I cannot understate the true magic of specifically winter break of sophomore year, because this is the time. This is the time when they go home and all the wins and all the losses and all the growth has started to settle in on them. And they realize, not consciously, but it still affects them. They realize that sophomore year, the journey of sophomore year, is about coming face to face with the intersection of invisibility, right? And despair, the intersection of despair with opportunity. You're despairing that everything is changing. You're despairing that you're having to grow. You're despairing that the foundation that you worked so hard to establish for yourself is not what you thought it was. But during winter break, when you come back and you're facing the end of your year and you're now over the halfway point, it becomes an opportunity. Okay, my foundation is not what I thought it was. Okay, I have new friends. Okay, I have new activities I can go try. So the power of being a sophomore is that precisely because of that disempowerment, because of that invisibility, it's a time when you can change course and no one's looking. You can change course in a way that will impact the majority of the rest of your journey. It's the only time a junior suddenly goes to winter break and comes back different, everyone's going to notice. A sophomore can kind of use that time under the radar to figure out who they're going to be, to figure out the ways in which it wasn't working for them. This is the moment. Hopefully, by the end of the year, their knowledge base will look a little bit more like this. You've encountered and understand now that most of your knowledge base are the things that you don't know that you don't know. So now you have an idea, more so, of the things that you don't know. And my goal as their teacher is to teach them one final, one final trick, I guess, or skill, one final skill, discernment. You have a large base of things that you don't know, but you don't have to find them all out. It's up to you. So when you get to the end of senior year or sophomore year and you're wondering what to do now, all year, these feelings of despair and okay, what now? Transitions into, okay, what now? I recently had my own sophomore slump. At 27, I've graduated from college, I've moved to a new city, I've gotten a job, I've started the career, I pay my bills, all that stuff. I thought that I knew so much, especially since I understand that I don't know most things. I thought that was a pretty good indicator of doing something right. But something didn't feel right. I wasn't as excited to go to work. I was looking around at the friends I have, and it wasn't fitting right. And then one day I was at school and I was reflecting on my time at school and I realized, oh my God, I've been teaching sophomores this whole time and I am one. Now what? So I decided not to continue teaching. The formula didn't fit my life right. I'm a night owl. I don't like getting up at 6 a.m. I love teaching my kids, but I want my time back. Don't ask me what's next because I don't know. But I'm excited to figure it out. And then I started to think about this more, this concept of being a sophomore, this journey of the sophomore year. If I can apply it to myself in the second phase of adulthood, right? I'm not a freshman, but I am definitely not a junior. How can I apply it to other things? Thinking about my family. You would not necessarily think of my family as being in a sophomore phase, but my parents have raised all of their children into adulthood. What now? We're all living in different places. We all have different jobs that we're doing, and our lives are more separate than ever. That feels a little bit sophomoric to me. You think you know, but you don't. When you're thinking about a city, the city I grew up in, Murfreesboro, it is irrecognizable every time I come home, which is not that infrequently. There's always more traffic and more people and more buildings. If freshman year is about acquiring tools and acquiring an understanding and acquiring a framework, what do you do with it now? Now that we have the people, now that we have the buildings, what do they do now? As a nation, this year is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. What now? We've got some issues. We kind of need to figure them out. Who's going to do that? Not me yet, right? I will help, but I'm not responsible for that. as a species, we've gone through the Industrial Revolution. We have the equipment. Not everyone is impacted equally by that. What now? Now that we have it, how do we be good stewards of it? What do we do now? How do we help each other? How do we take care of each other? So, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, you know, I have been feeling a little lonely, and I have been feeling a little disempowered, and maybe I'm feeling a little itchy as I'm sitting here. Maybe nothing's been going right. One thing you could try is chalking it up to a sophomore slump and asking yourself, what now? Thank you.